Hi, welcome. I'm Lorelai with Namasturm Yoga. This is going to be a level 1 yoga practice, so beginners to your mats. This is a level 1 practice, but it should be good for everyone. It's not, this isn't exclusively level 1. It's just, I'm going to try to do the basics so that anyone should be able to practice. That said, you may not be able to do everything, and that's okay. I always assume, some things are going to be right for some people, some things not so much for other people, and you got to go with what your body's telling you to try. So I'll give you the options and you can make the choices. Let's go ahead and take hands to knees, maybe take the shoulders back and down a couple of times. Close your eyes. Settle in for your practice. And so that really just means checking in with yourself. Notice how you're feeling, how you're doing. Start to notice your breath. Think of these first few minutes of your practice as a transition from the rest of your day, the rest of your life, the rest of your world, to this space and time. So the space may be exactly the same space as you're using for other things throughout the day, but really just give yourself that almost like, the different presence, so that although we're still here, we feel like we're in a little bit of a different space for our practice. Notice anything that might be going on in your body today. Your back feels achy, your hips feel tight, your shoulders feel sore or, maybe pinched, whatever. Or maybe some things are feeling good today. Maybe your neck feels great. Maybe you got a good night's sleep and have a lot of energy today. Whatever feels, the way it feels, just let yourself check in and notice. Okay, so we're going to work towards a Ujjayi breathing practice, and this we will use throughout the class, but we're going to start it while we're sitting. You can keep your eyes closed if you want to, or if it's easier or makes more sense or more comfortable for you to open them, that's fine. And I know that if you've practiced yoga, but you're probably very familiar with this practice, but it just involves narrowing the back of the throat. So if we do it with our mouth open, you may not even be able to hear me. It's not real loud. It's just a rushing kind of air, like it sounds like wind or a whisper or a wave or something like that. If we do it with our lips closed, which is what we're going to do, it's even quieter. So you should be able to hear it for yourself, but you may not, nobody else may be able to hear you doing this. So try it a couple of times. We don't want to hyperventilate and breathe super deep. So try to make your breath level, pretty, something sustainable, something that feels even and natural. But then we will try to even out the rhythm of it so that your inhale moves right into the exhale with no pause, and they last the same length. Inhales and exhales in real life don't always last the same length, but we're going to try to keep them really steady and smooth here. Each breath is the same as the one before it, and the one after it is the same length, and the inhales and exhales are nice and even. So it just feels continuous and rhythmic, almost like music. Nice, steady, slow music. It's not a fast, upbeat pace, but there is a rhythm to it. And let's try it out. So we're going to come to hands and knees, and we're going to start to move with the breath. So set up your shoulders over your wrists and your hips over your knees. Inhale, head and tail, lift, chest and belly, drop. And this goes with the pace of your breath. Exhale, arch the spine towards the ceiling. Inhale. exhale. So see if you can just follow the breath. So they're moving together. I tend to like to think of the breath and body as like dancing partners. One, you can't really tell if you're watching which one is leading, but one is leading. One of those partners is taking the lead, and we want that to be the breath. So the breath is leading here. The body is matching breath for breath, the same pace and rhythm. So we've got the cat pose is our arched spine. Cow pose is the swayed back. Shoulders are over wrists, hips are over knees. And maybe that range of motion starts to expand as you do this a few more times. So just really warming up the back of the body here, the spine. And then come back to level. And we're going to tuck the right toes under and slide the ball of the foot toward the back of the mat and push through the heel. And we're basically just stretching the calf at this point. And then we can move, just push back and forth a little bit through that heel. And then move so your heel is over the ball of the foot, shoulders are over wrists. We're going to pick up the left arm and reach that forward with the palm in. And then see if you can just lightly float the right foot off the floor. It's not coming up very high. If we were to bring that leg really high, what sometimes happens is the low back collapses. We really want to keep strong through the core. This is core supporting work. Now let's go ahead and tuck elbow, nose, knee in together. We're rounding. And then inhale, extend the limbs back out again. Exhale, tuck it in, contract. Inhale, extend out. Exhale, curl in, and you might be balancing here, so keep your gaze steady. Inhale, reach out. Now we're going to hold here, and then we're going to take the right leg to the right and the left arm to the left, so that we're trying to make them like a diagonal. So the left arm's not going to go as far as it can go. It's going to try to keep matched with the leg. Woo, keep breathing. The toes are still off the floor. And then plant your left hand down. Take the right leg all the way to the side. And then take the right arm up and twist open toward the ceiling. And breathe here. Let the head fall back. Let the chest open. I know you can't see my foot because it's off my mat, and yours can be too, but it's still there. Toes are pointing towards the front end of the mat. And then hand and knee back to the floor. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're just going to start by tucking the left toes and like slide the ball of the foot to the back of the mat and then stretch through that leg. So you can maybe go back and forth on the toes a little bit, getting into your calf. Push through it. The knee is really straight. And then coming back so that the heel is basically over the ball of the foot, and so it's a little bit lighter on the floor. Steady yourself up by maybe focusing your gaze at like maybe the front edge of your mat. Take the right arm out, palm faces in, and then just carefully lift the left toes lightly off the floor. Hips and shoulders are level here. Feel the abdominals start to engage and tone up to keep the extension of your limbs. Now exhale, contract, draw in, elbow, nose, knee, round the back. Inhale, reach everything out and extend, nice long line. Exhale, curl in. Inhale, reach out. Exhale, in. Inhale, extend, and then hold. And then again, try to keep the leg and arm related to each other, but you're going to take your left leg to your left and the right arm to the right, making a little bit of a diagonal, still strong through the core. And then plant your right hand down. Take your left leg all the way straight out from the hip. Plant the foot on the floor. You can't see mine here either, really. And then take the left arm up and twist open. Breathe. Let the head fall back. Look up if you can, and then rotate back to center. Okay, so all this really just to kind of get the body warmed up. Maybe take another moment here, hands and knees. If you want to take some more cat-cow stretches, you can. Or if you want to just kind of bend into the elbows and move your torso around a little bit, give yourself permission to just, feel things out. And then we're going to go to downward facing dog. So from hands and knees, we actually probably want to walk the knees back a couple of inches to get ourselves a little bit better aligned for down dog, and then tuck the toes. Root the hands down. So we're going to lift the knees, but we're mostly thinking before we even lift the knees of moving the chest back so that the arms grow long, and then we lift the knees and the hips go up. Keep the knees a little bent, right? So it's going to help us to get long through the spine if we keep the knees bent. Hands are tractioning into your yoga mat. So if you don't have a mat, sometimes the hands get slippery here. So that's the purpose that it really serves. So you may have to work harder to keep those hands from sliding if you don't have a mat. Let's keep the right knee really bent and straighten the left leg and try to drop that heel in the direction of the floor. It doesn't have to actually touch the floor. And then switch to the other side. So bend the left knee and straighten out the right leg. Drop that heel towards the floor. And then we're going to come forward to plank. So lift up onto the balls of the feet, move the shoulders forward over the wrists, and try to level things out. So if you tend to do a plank with the hips high, see if you can come to a more full plank. And if it's too intense for you to do this plank on your wrists, on your back, on any part of you, you can take knees to the floor. But again, we don't want the hips up like a tabletop. We kind of want to level the hips out with the shoulders so that we feel like we're just like a straight line. And then from plank, we're going to lower to the ground. So you can take the knees down first, and I kind of recommend that on the first one. And to lower, you need to bend the elbows, so don't let the hips drop first. We're trying to come down all in one piece. And then take the arms underneath you. We're going to just come to Sphinx pose. So the elbows are under the shoulders in Sphinx, and then we can traction. Again, using the mat, the grippiness of the mat, traction. Move the elbows back towards you, heart forward, soft glutes, breathe. Okay, so from here, let's keep ourselves propped up on forearms. We're going to bend the right knee, and we're going to reach back with the right hand for the foot. Now, we could draw the heel in and get a little thigh stretch, and maybe we do that at first. But let's go ahead and actually think about, we're going to grab either the foot, or if you can reach the ankle, grab the ankle. We're going to pull away. So we're going to let the heel pull away from the hip, and it's going to pull the shoulder back with it. And see if you can just come to like a half bow pose here. Heart is up and forward, and that bottom hand is pressing down to help you lift up. So you're getting a little stretch for one side. And then carefully let that go. Let your right forearm and the right leg come back to the floor. And we'll do the other leg. So bend your left knee and reach back with the same hand. So left hand to foot or ankle. And then you could pull the heel in and get a stretch for the top of the thigh, and you could do that for a second if you want to, but then we're going to activate this more like a bow. So we're going to pull the left heel away from the hip, pushing the foot into the hand, and see if you can use that to straighten out your arm and let your left shoulder get drawn back a little bit. The thigh might stay on the floor, that's fine. Just a little stretch here. And then go ahead and come on back, both forearms to the ground. Now keep the legs extended behind you. Take the hands where your elbows were, under your shoulders. Move up into cobra pose. So heart forward. Let the heads of the shoulders move back. Soften the glutes. Then root the hands down. Tuck your toes. Lift your hips by using your abdominals, and then knees moving back to downward facing dog again. Let your head hang heavy, maybe a little working through the legs again if you want to, back and forth. Breathe. And then look to the front of the mat, and let's walk the feet all the way forward. all the way up between the hands. And go ahead and soften the knees. Let the upper body just hang and dangle here. Maybe sway a little bit from side to side. You can loosen up the back of the neck by nodding and shaking it if you like to. If your hands hit the floor, maybe grab the elbows so they don't. And then bend the knees and roll on up to standing, coming all the way up at the top of the mat. Take the shoulders back and down here a couple of times. Really just loosening them up. Okay, and then we're gonna bring the big toes to touch at the front of the mat. So whichever end you want to use at the front of your mat, big toes touch, heels slightly apart. This is a parallel foot position. Navel in, tail down. So there's a little bit of engagement through the core here. The quads are also lifting, so the legs tone up a little bit. You can activate that by pressing the feet down and then just activating those muscles. But try not to lock your knees so that everything is a little bit more, toned up here than maybe it would be if we were just standing in a daily, some normal thing we were doing during the day. Bring your palms together in front of the heart and then inhale, reach the arms out and up. Exhale, swan dive forward over the legs, coming to a deep forward fold. This is Uttanasana. Now bring your fingers to your shins, press into your shins, flatten the back, reach the head away from the tail. This is Ardha Uttanasana, or half forward fold. And then exhale, fold down over the legs again, and we're gonna reverse swan dive. Come on up, reach the arms up. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. And let's just do that a couple more times, just really simple. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold over the legs, following the breath. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold back down. Inhale, reverse the swan dive. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. And again, inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift halfway up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come all the way up. And exhale, palms together. And this time we're going to just add on a little bit. Inhale, reach the arms out and up. Exhale, forward fold over the legs. Inhale, take a half lift. Exhale, fold back down. Now bend your knees enough so you can get the tips of your fingers on the floor and step the right foot all the way back behind you. Leave your left knee over your ankle so your front shin is really vertical, and keep the hands on the ground here for a moment. So right knee over toes, and we're lunging, obviously, so we're going to feel this lunge in the front leg. But something to think about is this back leg. So I remember sort of being introduced to this idea at first and being like, oh my gosh, this is so much more work. This back leg, sometimes we just bend the knee and kind of let that back leg almost just rest as we're lunging and we think about only the front leg. But the back leg should also be working. So activate your back quad by lifting and straightening the leg and like lifting the underside of the knee and really push through the back heel so that your back leg feels like it's working. And then if you push the heel back, you might start to feel like your head moves forward a little bit so that we're lengthening the spine as we're lunging. Breathe. And now keep that back leg really strong. Keep this front knee deeply bent. Plant your right palm on the floor, right inside of your left foot, and take your top arm up for a nice easy twist. If it's hard for you to get your right palm flat on the floor, that's where you could use like a block or a book or something underneath your hand. Turning open. Do the best you can here. And then turn back to the floor. Now, from here, we're going to step to plank, but think about trying to keep your back leg exactly as it is, and just step the front leg back to meet it. And now both legs, you're reaching through both heels. Both quads are lifted. Your hips are level with the shoulders. From here, if you can keep all of that strong, lower down all in one piece. See if you can do that. That's going through Chaturanga Dandasana. Extend your toes. Inhale, come on up for Cobra. And then exhale, lift the heart, or lift the hips, straighten out the legs, downward facing dog. And breathe here. Down dog is kind of a go-to pose We'll hit this one frequently, so you want to kind of make it comfortable for yourself. Not easy, but it should have elements of ease in it. Inhale, look to the front of the mat. Exhale, step or hop the feet forward between the hands. Inhale, take a half lift. So we're going to finish out the way we started. Exhale, fold down. Inhale, reverse your swan dive. Come all the way up. And exhale, palms together in front of the heart. I'm going to just move to the other side of the mat. We're going to do this on the other leg. So inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold over your legs. Inhale, take a half lift. And then with the fingertips on the floor, step your left foot back. So the right foot stays forward this time. And again, we've got the knee over the ankle. So you may not have your hips as low as mine. They may not be able to go as low, and that's okay. So it might be harder to get the fingers on the floor, so you could use a block. But if you're able to get your hip level with your knee, that's great. But we want to work that back leg. And one of the things is if we don't work that back leg, sometimes the hip just slings way down, and it's going to be a little harder on your knee. So if we can activate that back leg, it's actually giving some support to the pose and taking some of the weight off of this front knee. Plus, we're charging up that back leg, which means we're getting some muscle built back there as well. Reach through the head, push through the heel. See if you can find that connection, how pushing through the heel can elongate the spine, let your head reach forward. Nice and strong and dynamic. And now plant your left palm. Take the right arm up for a twist here. Shoulders can stack. Keep your knee over your ankle, so you might notice your knee starting to wobble out. See if you can really keep it aligned right above your shin and ankle. And then turn back to the floor. Step back to plank pose. Shoulders over wrists, and let's lower down. Maybe, so if you're gonna go through chaturanga, so this is chaturanga. It's like hovering. Elbows are bent, but nothing but the hands and toes touch the floor. It's a challenging pose. So then oftentimes we'll just come all the way down to the floor from there. And then take cobra. Tuck your toes, lift your hips. Exhale, downward facing dog, and breathe. Inhale, look to the front of the mat. Exhale, step, walk, or hop the feet forward. You could hop them up if you like. Inhale, take a half lift, flat back. Exhale, fold down deep, and then reverse the swan dive. So press your feet down as you come on up. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. Let's go ahead and take a couple of sun A's. So this is just a matter of stringing together some of the poses we've been doing. But we won't do the lunges, right? So we'll just go straight back to plank. Go ahead and bring your palms together. Inhale, reach the arms out and up. Exhale, take a long forward fold over the legs. This is Uttanasana. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, plant the palms and step right back to plank. So both legs step back and you lower down. Inhale to your cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take an extra breath or two in down dog. Inhale, look forward between your hands. Exhale, bend the knees and step, or if you want, you can hop it up. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold down deep. Reverse swan dive, come on up. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. Inhale, reach arms out and up. Let's keep flowing with the breath. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, step to plank, lowering your body down. Now, go ahead and lower down the whole way this time, and then walk your hands just a little closer in, elbows by the sides. You can come on up to cobra. If you want to take up dog, upward facing dog, you just press the tops of the feet down, straighten up the arms, and float the thighs up off the floor. But the hips are still draped down. So now you can see the legs aren't down at all. So it's not knees down, hips up, right? So that's kind of not really where we want to be. If we're coming to cobra, the thighs are completely down and heart is forward. But up dog, the thighs are completely off the floor. It's hard to see in the video, I think, but your thighs are off the floor. So if you're in up dog, Then to come to down dog, you just kind of float the hips up and flip over the feet if you can, and then end up in downward facing dog, and breathe here. Now from down dog, let's take the right leg up into the air. Try to keep your hip nice and square so the toes stay flexed downward. The tendency a lot of times is to lift the hip. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but let's just see if we can control it a little better by keeping the hips square. And this will come into play with some of the poses we're going to be going into shortly. Look forward between the hands. Step the right foot all the way through to the front of the mat. Now, if it's hard to step it past the middle of the mat, then, first of all, we want to lift up more and get the core able to lift away better. But if that doesn't happen today, just use your hand to help you get the foot to the front of the mat. And we're going to come to our high lunge again. So again, we're reaching through that back leg, but we're going to this time float all the way up and find some balance. Bring your hands to your hips, lunge into that front leg, but remember that back leg is really straight and strong as well. Take your arms up. This is crescent pose. We can take it to warrior one by slightly step your left foot to the left, just a little tiny bit, and then pivot your back heel down. So we can now root into that back heel. However, check and see if it pulled the hip back with it. See if you can move your left hip forward and right hip back so that we're still lunging and the hips are still squared. Take the arms back up. Lunge deep into that front knee. Every time you breathe, you can deepen the pose. And then hands to the floor. And we're going to make our way through the vinyasa sequence. So keep your back leg really strong as you come up off the back heel. Step the right foot back. You're in plank. You can lower down either all the way to your belly and take cobra, or just to chaturanga. And then the thighs and knees never touch the floor as you flip to the tops of the feet for up dog. And then exhale to downward facing dog. Let's take the left leg into the air. Keep the hip nice and square. Toes are flexed downward. Root the hands down. Lift the hips up. Keep the heel, level. Hands, heart, hips, heel. And then look forward and step your left foot forward. And to get more space, we want to think about really lifting. So it's a little core work. See if you can get that foot all the way to the front of the mat. But if it gets caught midway, use your left hand to help you. Keep the back leg, their legs really strong in your lunge, and then come on up, float yourself up to crescent pose. Front knee bends, strong back leg. Shoulders are over hips here. Now to come to warrior one on this side, step your right foot, just a tiny bit further to the right, and then pivot your heel down. And now see if you can drive your right hip forward and your left hip back a little bit better. Lunge into that front knee. Root into the outer edge of the back foot. So try not to roll to your arch. And I know that can be really challenging. Do the best you can. We're trying to put our bodies in slightly challenging positions and asking them to do things that feel a little counter to just the ordinary. And that's how we get our stretch and our strength. Hands to the floor. Step back to plank pose. Lower down. Again, you can go to chaturanga dandasana if you want to, and then sweep to up dog, or you can lower to your belly and then go to cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog, and breathe. Inhale, look to the front of your mat. Exhale, bend the knees and step or lightly hop it forward. Inhale, take a half lift. Exhale, fold down deep. Bend the knees, sink the hips. So we're gonna come to chair pose here, but for now, just bend the knees and sink the hips. I'm gonna come a little more to the middle of the mat just to show. So we're bringing basically our belly to our thighs if possible. We're gonna reach the arms out alongside the ears. Now as we come up, move your weight to your heels, and we're not just coming up with the shoulders, but we're letting the whole tailbone tuck down. Weight towards the heels, come on up, square yourself forward, and breathe. One more inhale. Now exhale, go ahead and fold again, straighten those legs. It should feel good to be able to straighten the legs again. Inhale, take a half lift, flat back. And then we're gonna take another vinyasa here. So step back to plank and lower. Inhale, take a cobra or an up dog. Exhale, take downward facing dog. And breathe. All right, let's take the right leg into the air again. Let's just lift it up once. Exhale, step it forward to the front of the mat. We're gonna, before we take the hands up, we're gonna step to warrior one. So you can step your left foot a little to the left, pivot that heel down, and come on up, warrior one again. And now we're gonna go in the direction of warrior three. I'm actually gonna flip around on my mat to show the other side. So warrior three is the balance pose. We want to keep the leg and the torso and the arms all lined up. So let's do that now while the back foot is still on the floor. So creating kind of a diagonal, push into the back heel. And it's not gonna be perfect. And we can't see our bodies real well from the back or the angle. So we kind of got to try to feel for it. So we want to feel the heel and then feel like the hip and the heel are connected, and then the head and the torso and the shoulders are connected in the same way. The arms can continue to extend alongside the ears, but it's also a little simpler if you bring palms together in front of the heart. Now we're going to try to keep that line, but we're going to tilt it so that it's more of a capital T shape. We float up off the back leg. Reach through the heel, reach through the head. And again, maybe the palms are together in front of the heart. The gaze is classically down toward the floor here. Don't drop the head and shoulders. So try to keep your shoulder blades on your back. Finally, try to keep the hips level. This is really challenging, but that left hip might want to go up. See if you can level it out so that the tailbone reaches straight back. Now bend your front knee again, step back long, all the way back to warrior one, inhale. And let's exhale to warrior two. So we're gonna open up, front heel and back arch line up, arms out at shoulder height, shoulders over hips, adjust, like get the alignment here the first time we're in this pose, and then when you feel like you've got things where you need them to be, then you can turn your head and look over your front fingertips and breathe. So here, this left hip is open. So in warrior one, obviously we're thinking about moving the left hip forward, square to the short edge of our mat. Now we're opening it to the long edge of our mat. We want to keep the front knee over the ankle and then maybe drop the left hip down a little bit. So again, we're challenging our bodies to work in a deeper way than usual, just to get into some of those areas that usually get neglected. Turn the front palm up, reverse warrior. Take a couple of breaths. As you're reaching up and back with the upper body, keep lunging into that front knee, so don't lose the bent knee. One more inhale, and then as you exhale, cartwheel the hands around the front foot and step yourself back to plank. You can take a vinyasa here, or you could also go straight to downward facing dog, so up to you. Breathing in downward facing dog. And let's do the other leg, other side. So take the left leg up on an inhale, and then exhale, step it to the front of your mat. Step the right foot a little to the right to pivot that back heel down. Come on up for a warrior one. So we're here, we've been here. We're gonna transition to warrior three. So start to think about leaning and creating that diagonal. So we're not just dropping our chest right now. We want to keep everything engaged through the core. Reach through the heel, reach through the head. If you're using the arms, reach through the arms, and then just start to lean your weight towards your left foot until you're able to pick up the right, and then try to level everything out with the floor. Capital T. Now a couple of things. Again, we want to keep the head and shoulders a little lifted so that they're not slouching down. Try to keep your hips level. Maybe those palms are pressing together in front of the heart. Push into your back foot. So imagine you were pushing your foot against the wall, something that had to get pushed away, and you're pushing away from there. Reach the head forward away from the heel, and then bend your front knee. Reach back long so you can step all the way back to a full warrior one. Inhale, And then let's open to warrior two. Exhale. Adjust the back foot so the front heel and back arch now line up. Make sure that your right hip is now open and dropped down, left knee over ankle, shoulders over hips. There's not a big back bend here, right? So notice if that's your tendency, and instead pull the navel in, drop your tail slightly down. So I'm probably not a perfect example of this, but we're trying to get the hips level, arms at shoulder height, and then turn and look over your front fingertips. Turn the front palm up and let's reverse the warrior. Couple breaths. No change in the low body. This is just an upper body change. One more inhale. And then exhale. Cartwheel the hands down around the front foot. Step back to plank, lowering down. Inhale, take a cobra or an up dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. And breathe here. Now, if you're ever in down dog and you need a deeper rest, you can take knees to the floor, hips to heels, and take child's pose. Down dog is designed to be a resting pose, but I know that may not always feel that way. But from down dog, let's inhale, look to the front of the mat. Exhale, step or lightly hop the feet forward. Inhale, take a half lift, flat back. Exhale, fold down deep. And now we're going to bend the knees. Again, we're going to come through chair pose, Utkatasana. And then straighten the legs, come to standing. All right, let's keep going. Bend the knees, sink the hips, inhale, chair. We're gonna start the same way. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, take a half lift, flat back. Exhale, step to plank and lower. If you wanna just go straight to down dog, that works too. Cobra or up dog. Exhale, down dog. Let's take the right leg into the air again on an inhale. Exhale, step it to the front of the mat. We're gonna come to warrior one again. So back heel's gonna go down. Put your upper body up. This time we're gonna transition to a dancer pose. So we're gonna keep lunging into the front knee. So earlier, when we were going to warrior three, we were letting the upper body kind of move forward. Now, we're gonna come off of the back leg, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep the right arm forward and try to keep the torso more upright. We're gonna lean towards the front leg, take your left hand behind you, open the palm, and as you step up off of the back foot, you're gonna bend your back knee and reach for the inner foot. Pull the heel away from the hip, keep your heart lifting. So this is a balance pose first and foremost. So find a gazing point ahead of you, something that's not moving that can help to stabilize you. And then if you want to deepen it from here, you're pulling the heel away from the hip. So it's like a bow. Remember when we were on our bellies earlier and we had one hand to foot and we're pulling the heel away, letting the front shoulder draw back. From here, let's start to fold. So right now we're keeping the torso really upright. This is going to be kind of a challenge for the balance. Let's see if we can move while still on one leg. Start to fold. Keep reaching those fingers forward. Lift the foot higher, higher, higher. And then at some point, you're going to need to let go of the foot to take the fingers to the floor. See if you can get both fingers to the floor. Now we're in a standing split. The left leg is high up. Maybe it's only as high as your hip, but you're allowed to take it as high as you want. The hands are on the floor. If you have a hard time reaching the floor, put something under your hands so that you can put the fingers down. Now from standing split, bend your front knee, step back really long. We're gonna do the same standing poses that we just came out of. So we're gonna come back to warrior one where we just were, inhale. We're gonna exhale, open to warrior two. Inhale, we're gonna reverse. And then let's take extended side angle here. So we're getting into kind of the final of this sort of the standing warrior sequence. Forearm to the thigh, take your top arm overhead alongside the ear. Goal here is to create a diagonal from the outer edge of the back foot all the way along the side of the body until you can look towards your fingertips. And breathe, front knee stays over ankle. And then from here, float on out, stretch up and back, look towards your top fingers, and then hands to the floor. Make your way through a vinyasa to come back to downward facing dog, and then we'll move into the second side. Go ahead and breathe here. And I'm just gonna turn the other way on my mat. So let's do this with the left leg. So we're gonna take the left leg into the air on an inhale. Exhale, step it forward between the hands, lower your back heel down, come on up, so you're in warrior one, and then we're thinking about moving to our dancer pose. So we're gonna take the left hand out and just have it ahead of you, and this is just kind of a reminder to keep your torso up, to keep some extension in this direction. Lean forward, take your right hand behind you with the palm open, and then float the back leg up, bend the knee, come on up, reaching for the inner foot. Do the best you can on the balance. Obviously, having a gaze is gonna help you. If you need to be near a wall, so there's something you can catch. If you run into trouble, you can certainly do that. Breathe, heart stays up. So we're not folding down, but we are pushing the foot up. Look, and if you fall, you fall, it's okay. So come up out of it as you need to. Now we're gonna try to move to standing splits. So keep a little bit of this tension in this back leg first if you can. Start to fold, fold, fold. And then when you're just like, yeah, I gotta let go of the foot, let it go. Take both fingers to the floor, straighten the top leg up, standing splits. And breathe. And then when you're ready to come out, bend the front knee. And you're bending this front knee so that you can really reach for the back of the mat. And maybe that foot just lands, but if you can put it down softly, that's great too. Inhale, come back up to warrior one. Exhale, open to warrior two. Front heel and back arch line up, shoulders over hips. Inhale, reverse the warrior, so stretch up and back, and then extended side angle on side two. Forearm to the thigh, top arm overhead, creating a nice diagonal here. Breathe. And then reverse, so stretching up and back, inhale. And then exhale, cartwheeling the hands down around that front foot, step to plank, lower down. Inhale, take a back bend. And exhale, downward facing dog, breathing here. Inhale, look to the front of the mat. Exhale, bend the knees and step or lightly hop it forward. Inhale for a half lift. Exhale, fold down deep, bend the knees. Inhale, chair pose. And let's straighten the legs and come to standing. And let's take a nice wide stance on the mat here. We're gonna do triangle on both sides, and we'll do a nice wide forward fold in between. So we'll start by turning the right toes open towards the front of your mat, depending on which way you're facing, just, so we're gonna go to the right. Front heel and back arch line up in triangle, the front leg stays straight, arms out at shoulder height. Tuck your right hip in, reach through the right fingers. So really try to reach as far away as you can, tucking the hip in, but keep the legs straight and the feet strong. We're not gonna collapse the torso, but as long as you can keep extending and lengthening, go for it. When you get to your max, adjust the arms so that the shoulders stack. Use the back of the hand to press against your inner shin to help turn that top shoulder open, and see if you can look up towards your top thumb. Press the feet down and breathe. And then float yourself back up. Let's parallel the feet so that the outer edges kind of line up with the outer edges of your mat. Take your hands to your waist. Nice long forward fold. Keep lifting the quads. Come on down. Fingers to the floor, maybe palms to the floor. Lean the weight forward toward the balls of the feet. Let the head hang down heavy. Give up the weight of the upper body, but keep the legs really toned and engaged here. And then press the feet down, root into them, hands to the waist, come on up carefully. And let's pivot on the left toes, left heel. So turn the left toes open, arms out at shoulder height, tucking that left hip in, keep the sides of the body long, extend, 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 and we're taking triangle on the other side. Again, I like back of the hand against the inner shin. There are different ways you can place the hand. So you could place the hand on your ankle or shin and just kind of push down, but we don't want to put too much weight. So we don't want to like just then fall and rely on taking weight into the hand. You could also take a block behind your shin and put your hand down on a block, and then you can push into that block to get some lift and lengthening happening through the arms, through the torso. Strong feet here. And then carefully float yourself up, parallel the feet, and we're going to take one more forward fold. So this time, take your hands behind the back and interlace the fingers. So they're going to go like this, and try to pull your shoulders back and down. If you have a hard time getting your hands together behind your back, find something you can grab onto between them. So like a t-shirt or a little towel or something like that will work. And we're going to fold. Now, the shoulder blades are down the back. Let your heart lead. Lean forward toward the balls of the feet, let the head hang, and then maybe those arms are reaching up and over. Lean forward. So we want to almost feel like we're about to fall on our heads, but our legs are strong, they're stabilizing, we're lifting the quads, we're engaging through the legs so that we don't actually fall. And then press the feet down. Come on up carefully. Let's step back to the top of the mat, whichever you're using. This is the top of your mat. Feet together. Inhale, reach the arms out and up. Exhale, long forward fold to Uttanasana. Inhale, half lift, flat back, Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale, we're going to step to plank and lower all the way down. So you can go through Chaturanga if you want to, but let's come all the way to the floor. Now we're going to take a little bit more of a bow pose here. So we did sort of the half bow at the beginning of class like this, and that's actually very similar to what we did in dancer pose, is that we were pulling the heel away from the hip, lifting the heart. Now we're going to do this with both feet in bow. Again, if you have a hard time reaching both feet, you could do it one foot at a time, or you could actually wrap something around your feet and like grab onto it. That's also an option. But for those of you who can easily grab the feet behind you, that's what you're going to do. If you can grab the ankles, you could do that, and then maybe flex into the feet a little. First, lift your shoulders. Right now the thighs are completely on the floor, and our belly's on the floor, but you can actually press a little bit down. So imagine your tailbone is trying to push its way to the floor. See if you can activate that just a little bit. And then pull the heels away from the hips, and as you do that, the shoulders should start to get pulled back. The arms are completely straight here, so let your elbows straighten out. And then if you want to go deeper, start to lift the thighs and the feet. The thighs off the floor and the feet reach towards the ceiling. Keep your head up, neck natural and relaxed. Breathe. And then try to keep the knees like a little bit closer to each other, so don't let them go too wide. Take one more inhale here. And then exhale, let yourself come down to the floor, extend your legs, take your hands in front of you, forehead to your hands, or you could turn one ear down to the ground. And let's do another one before we completely get to resting on the floor. Okay, bend the knees. Once again, reach back with the hands for the feet or the ankles. Pull your shoulder blades together. Tuck your tailbone towards the ground and then come on up. Make sure you can still breathe here. Smooth and steady. Stay with your Ujjayi breath. Keep the gaze ahead. Relax your face. Try to take about 3 more breaths here. And then carefully come on down, forehead or an ear to the floor. One more. Okay. So this time, bend the knees and reach for the, if you can, reach for the inner feet. So instead of the outer feet, you're going to grab the inner feet. Let the shoulder blades get drawn together even more. Pull on up. Again, try to take at least 5 breaths here. And slowly lower down, and again, forehead or an ear to the floor, and breathe. So make your way from your belly, bringing your hips to your heels, and just for a moment, forehead to the floor, extend everything out. And then let's come on up, and we're going to drop to the left hip. So we're going to do a little twisting, and then we're going to come to the floor to our backs. So let's drop to the left hip, step the right foot over for just a nice easy seated twist. So take your hips down, and then with the right knee up, we're going to use our left arm. So either elbow around knee or elbow past knee. Turn over your right shoulder. And then let's switch the direction. So recross the legs, right leg on the bottom, left leg over the top, and then use your right elbow. Either wrap it around your knee or take it to the outside so you're turning to the left. All right, and then let's unwind from here. We're gonna go to the floor. We're gonna practice a little shoulder stand today. So I just wanna give you a backup plan. If you feel like you don't wanna take a shoulder stand, and this could be, you don't wanna do an inversion, or maybe you have a trouble with your neck, you can just come to your floor, to your mat, to the back, and just take your legs up. And they may not be completely straight. I mean, if you can straighten them, great, but if the knees are bent, it's fine, but you're just gonna let the blood flow in the opposite direction for those legs. Those of you who are interested in shoulder stand, I'm going to give you a little setup if you want to add a little bit of support for this pose. So I have like just a blanket here, which I've folded, about this shape and size. And you can try to put this, we're going to put it under the shoulders, but the head will be off the blanket. And this sometimes just helps with the neck a little bit. So put it about in the middle of your mat. You want to make sure there's room behind you for your head. And because we're going to come to plow pose first, we want to make sure that our feet can get behind us as well. We're going to come to this blanket with the shoulders on and the head off. And this is not adding a whole lot of support. So if you're in a studio, sometimes they have like thicker wool blankets, but it's a little bit. So the shoulders are on, the head is off, right? So the head is on the mat. Now we're going to take the legs up, and to come to plow pose first is just going to help to get a little deeper into this. So you're going to bring your hands next to the sides of the body, push down, lift your hips up, and reach the feet overhead. And see if they can touch the floor. They might not be able to, but then we're going to try to get the shoulders underneath us. So try not to fall to the side here. Try not to turn your head to the side here either. Unfortunately, we would rather not do that. See if you can interlace the hands. So like we did earlier when we were doing that wide-legged forward fold, interlace the fingers, reach through them. And this is plow pose, halasana. It stretches the upper back. It helps us to move the hips over the shoulders. Then if we want to come to shoulder stand, we're going to take the hands to the back, and the fingers aren't going to be laced anymore, and push in to like almost the rib cage here. So we're not just sitting our hips on our hands, but we're moving towards our back. Get the hips over the shoulders, and then one at a time take the legs up into the air.
With this blanket underneath us, it's a little bit easier on the neck because we can still have a small curve in the neck as opposed to having that neck completely flatten out. Reach through the feet. Think about pushing through the balls and the heels of the feet simultaneously, or lifting the inner edges of the feet so that the legs engage. We're trying to take the bend out of the hip crease, like right where our waist is. So we want to try to have no bend. The body is really vertical. From here, if you want to take a little variation, keep your left leg up, start to reach the right toes overhead, and maybe you can even take them to touch the ground, like a half halasana, plow pose. And then slowly take that leg back up. So try not to use momentum here, and we're not like scissoring the legs, we're doing one at a time. Take the other side down. Breathing here. Keep your gaze up. So again, try not to turn to the side. I'm trying to talk you through this so you don't have to look. Take your left leg back up to meet the right, and now both legs are going to come back overhead. So again, we're coming back out through plow. We're coming out of the pose the way we went in, reversing it. So feet to the floor, and then to roll down, see if you can bend the knees. Maybe for a moment, drop the knees down by your ears. Maybe reach back for the feet, and then hold the feet so that we're gonna roll out of this basically to happy baby pose. You're gonna let your spine slowly return to the floor, one vertebra at a time. With that blanket in the way, you might have a little bit of a clump at the very end, and that's okay. But then knees by the sides of the chest, weight of the hands press down into the feet, push the feet slightly up into the hands, and then maybe a little rolling on that low back. Happy baby should feel really nice for your low back. And then take the soles of the feet together, and just for a moment, let the edges of the feet come to the floor and the knees go a little wide. So this is Supta Baddha Konasana, or reclining bound angle pose. And my head ended up on this blanket here. It doesn't really matter at this point. The upper body isn't as much the issue. We're letting the low body stretch. And we're going to come up back to seated in just a moment. Let those knees just drop wide if you can. And then in any way that makes sense to you, bring your knees back in and just make your way up to sitting. So if you want to rock up, that's fine, or if you just want to use your hands to support you coming up. We're going to do a last seated forward fold here before we end. Now, if you've got a blanket and you'd like to, you could try sitting on the edge of a blanket. Sometimes this just helps tilt the pelvis a little bit better. We're going to take Jani Shirshasana, which is knee to head pose. We'll take the right leg straight out. So I'm just going to turn a little to the side here so you can see a little better. The right leg straight out with the toes flexed. The sole of the left foot is going to come to the inner thigh and the knee goes wide. So this is a really basic forward fold. It's a single leg as opposed to doing like a double leg forward fold. We do want to try to angle the torso toward the leg. Keep your foot flexed and then just start to lean in towards it. Don't strain with the upper body. We're letting the low body, the legs, stay engaged. So your quad is still toned, your foot is still flexed, but the upper body is just going to start to give up its weight to the floor. And if you've got the blanket and you find it useless, you can kick it out of the way, but if it's helpful to you, you can keep it there underneath your sit bones. Let yourself fold down, breathing. And then walk the hands in, come on up nice and slow, and we'll do the other leg. So the left leg's gonna come out in front of you. Sole of the right foot comes to the inner thigh. The right knee can just drop wide. Angle your body, so you're trying to, point your navel towards your knee. You can think of it that way. Flex your left foot, engage your left quad, and start to fold here. I always think it's interesting to notice the difference between the end of the fold on one side and the beginning of the fold on the other side. Because here, I'm nowhere near where I was at the end of the last fold, but it's time, it's progress. So we're gonna be here like, 7, 8, almost 10 breaths. That's what's gonna do the trick here, not that we can just
yank or force ourselves deep into this pose right away, but we're gonna give our hamstring time to open, and as it does, that's when the pose deepens. We're not pushing, we're not forcing, we're just allowing and staying present for the time that it takes. Give in, let go, but keep the leg toned so that you're actually stretching against something. And then walk your hands in to carefully come back up to sitting. And then maybe kick the blanket out of the way. We're gonna just come to a seat here, really simple. So I encourage, after we close this practice together, I encourage you to head to your mat for a Shavasana, 5 to 10 minutes in corpse pose. But for now, just go ahead and bring your palms together in front of the heart, close the eyes, tune into your breath. Let's close today with just a simple bow forward. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your practice. Namaste. Yay, wonderful. Feel free to share these classes with anyone else you think might enjoy. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to let me know. All the best. Yay.